Welcome to another breakdown video where today we will be breaking down this segment that was on MSNBC where John Leguizamo was talking about this show that he has on where he's so-called exploring Latino cultures across the U.S. But I want you to listen to what he says in this clip, and y'all can see it right there at the top where it says, "We built this country and we're thriving. We add $2.8 trillion to the GDP every year," so on and so forth. So I'm going to just go ahead and let it play out, and then we're going to go ahead and go back and break it down. And then I'm going to show y'all something that's even more interesting that many of you may or may not have noticed, or not so much noticed or knew when it came to John.
Latin people, we're the largest ethnic group in America, the oldest ethnic group. We built this country. We suffered in this country. We were oppressed, and we're thriving. We add $2.8 trillion to the GDP every year. If we were our own country, we'd be the fifth largest economy in the world, bigger than England, bigger than Italy, bigger than Brazil. And that's just in America. So I found Latin excellence all over America, in Chicago, in D.C., in Miami, in Puerto Rico, in L.A., in New York. And we ate, we danced, and we celebrated because nobody knows how to enjoy life as good as Latinos.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so sweet. But y'all probably heard some things in there and was saying to yourself, oh God, here he go. Yes, here he goes. And John Leguizamo has been quite an issue for a while now, especially when it comes to his stance on how he loves to thrust or tries to insert his self or his culture in with what we got going on. Let's just put it this way. If there was a so-called black or brown coalition, this guy would be the one that would run off with the bag and leave us with the crumbs. Like, that's just the vibes I would get from him. Like I said, if there was, I have to say that again for context because some people were like, there is none. I said, if there was one, insinuating that there isn't one. Now, let's go back in here and break down what he said. Luckily, it's only a 39-second clip, so we should be able to do this fairly quickly.
Latin people, we're the largest ethnic group in America, the oldest ethnic group. We built.
He said they're the largest ethnic group in America and the oldest ethnic group. So John claimed that that they are the largest group in America. Yet I went on to Google, and a simple Google search will point this out. It says that white and European Americans are the majority of people living in the United States. White people are defined by the United States Census Bureau as those having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. It still kills me about that North Africa part, but okay, whatever. A simple Google search would have told him that. But also in that same Google search, I found this. Now, this is as of 2020. Some things might have changed, but they do it every 5 years. So the next update won't be into 2025, where they have white, Hispanic, Latino, African American. Now, keep in mind, John Leguizamo said that they are the largest ethnic group. The largest ethnic group we already established is white. They would fall under to the second. We were the second, but then thanks to immigration and mass immigration at that, they became the second largest ethnic group. So clearly this man doesn't know his numbers, or is John trying to say that he falls into this category. Things that make you go, But I want y'all to keep this in mind when I talk about the other thing that I wanted to mention when it comes to John at the end of this breakdown.
This country, we suffered in this country, we were oppressed, and we're thriving. We add two.
Now I want y'all to pay attention to how some of the stuff he's saying. It sounds a lot like the stuff that we say when it comes to us when we're trying to get our bid in for what's owed to us as far as reparations and tangibles go. Like, really pay attention to what he's saying and how he's framing it. It sounds a lot like what we talk about on a pretty much consistent, damn near daily basis. That's how the crowbarring thing works.
$2.8 trillion to the GDP every year. If we were our own country, we'd be the fifth largest economy in the world, bigger.
My thing is, you have your own country. Based on your background and what we found, which I'm going to talk about after this breakdown, you already have your own country. You already have your own nation, many nations at that. So what are you talking about? You know what? Better yet, John, you could, I don't know, have done something in your travels or in this Leguizamo Does America, because that's the name of the show, gone to these different places and I don't know, provided them with some kind of financial aid so they can build up their infrastructure or anything that they needed help with, and do that in a country that is already yours. But let's continue.
Bigger than England, bigger than Italy, bigger than Brazil. And that's just in America. So I found Latin excellence all over America, in Chicago, in D.C., in Miami, in Puerto Rico, in L.A., in New York. And we ate, we
I want y'all to notice something too. Notice the places that he mentioned. He said, let me run it back a little bit.
Excellence all over America, in Chicago, in D.C., in
Miami,
in Puerto Rico, in L.A., in New York.
L.A., New York. I didn't say Puerto Rico for a reason. But notice all the places that he mentioned had at one point been very major black enclaves. All those places he mentioned used to at one point be major black enclaves until mass immigration happened and people who look like him moved in and started to replace a lot of the black residents there, especially in Los Angeles. I think Los Angeles is probably up there. I didn't mention Puerto Rico because, that's pretty much, you pretty much getting what you're going to get when you think about a place like Puerto Rico. Now, one could argue that many of the Puerto Ricans down there at one point looked almost like my shade, like my complexion. Of course, now many of them, thanks to that caste system, look more like him.
New York, and we ate, we danced, and we celebrated because nobody knows how to enjoy life as good as Latinos.
Okay. And this is not me even taking a dig at his culture or anything like that. But when you sit up there and saying we built this country, when we look at these imageries from chattel slavery, I didn't see not one person out in that field that looked like John Leguizamo. When we think about all these movies that deal with slavery, I didn't see not one actor or actress out there who looked like John Leguizamo. Let's be real here. But the thing is, let them change this narrative. I give it a few years and what I just mentioned might actually come true. Now, I wanted to show y'all something very interesting to y'all from someone who was close to John. One would say almost like a parental figure. Now, peep this right here. This is a headline from a website called latintrends.com. And this is all facts. This is all legit, by the way. I just wanted to say that out there because some of you be like, oh, it may not be true. No, it is true. Trust me. And it was dated October 24th, 2022. So it was just a few months ago. It said John Leguizamo's dad states John lied about being Puerto Rican. What's up, Nene? Now, I'm going to show y'all some stuff right now that's going to let you know that John Leguizamo is a person that you really shouldn't be taking seriously just based on this alone. Peep this. For those who didn't know, ghetto clown star John Leguizamo was born to a Puerto Rican father and Colombian mother in Bogota, Colombia, and they immigrated to the U.S. when John was a child. Now that this well-renowned actor-comedian, his father Alberto, claims that he's Colombian, making John 100% Colombian with no Puerto Rican blood. In the National Puerto Rican Day Parade yesterday along Fifth Avenue in New York, John was the global ambassador of the arts at the parade. The father originally went to El Diario, telling the reporter that he's Colombian and showed proof that he was born there in 1936. John claims his father was from Aguadillo, Puerto Rico. And he says, it hurts me that John lies to the Puerto Ricans and doesn't stand behind his Colombian roots, according to the New York Daily News. Now, that's a fraudster for you. Especially the part where he said he went and was an ambassador in the National Puerto Rican Day Parade, and this man is 100% Colombian. It took his own dad to come out and pretty much expose him. And shout out to his dad for doing that, because it's like you're running from your own heritage. Like, why do you not want to claim that you're Colombian? Because this is the same guy right here who's big upping, that Latins have this great grand culture, but you're running from your own culture from within that community. That's the craziest thing right there. That is so weird to me. I can never understand why someone would run away from their culture if you claim your culture is so rich and so cultured and so this and so that and so grandiose and whatnot. And his own dad had to come out and spill the beans against him. They had a whole fraud be the ambassador for that parade, and they didn't even know it. He most likely told people for years he was Puerto Rican. I guess he figures that was his way of getting his ticket into Hollywood, because he was like, no one's going to accept a Colombian. Well, they accepted you. Now that they know, I wonder if John is still going around claiming to be Puerto Rican. But you know what? That clip that I showed y'all that I just did the breakdown on probably tells me that he is. And you want to know why I say that? It's because when he was mentioning all these locations, he said New York, Chicago, LA, and all these other places. And then he said Puerto Rico. He didn't say Colombia. So he might still be holding on to the grift, even after his dad called him out. But yeah, John, let's just be real with ourselves here. Your people did not build America. They didn't. Especially when you think about when he said he came over here as a child. Now you got to think, John Leguizamo was born, I want to say, in the later part of the 60s. He was born in the latter part of the 60s, I believe. Early 70s at best. If his family came over when he was a child, then they didn't specify at what age he was. They said he was just a child. That means this nation was already built when your family got here. And that same story most likely applies to many other people who came over here who fit within your culture or somewhere in your diaspora. So cut the BS. I tell y'all, I hate when people insult our intelligence. Well, mine in particular, I can't say for anyone else, but I know that's a pet peeve for many of y'all too. And that's exactly what he tried to do here. And I'm so glad that when I found this, that I'm bringing this to y'all, that so many people were calling him out in that comment section. People was going in on him, and rightfully so. That's why I said I'm glad black people are starting to really wake up, research their history, know their history. You know, it's more than just, you know, we want reparations. Granted, we want that. But this is also at a time when we are really getting back into our roots and really finding out who we are. And we're kicking out all these detractors and all these people who are trying to intercept and interject their way into what is rightfully ours. John is one of those people, and we're pushing him out of the way because for too long, he's been doing this. He's been doing this for a while, and he continues to do this. But now there's pushback. So there's only so much he's going to be able to do before he stops altogether.